All right, guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about getting telegraph on Unraid. And as you already know, like I just say in a bunch of my videos, right? Not as easy as you would like to hope, okay? I would have thought you could just install, leave everything default, boom, you got telegraph, you make some, config changes, and that's that. Nope, not at all, right? So let's talk about it, all right? So let me go ahead and I'm going to click on install here, and we're going to actually kind of go through some immediate issues that you're going to have, okay? All right, here we go, right? This part right here, the telegraph config, right? I would have thought it would have naturally made it itself. Turns out it doesn't for whatever reason. Maybe in the future, you can try this to see if you at least get the configuration going first. If not, you're going to need to search the World Wide Web for telegraphs, like default configuration, and then of course you go through the the usual to get it to wherever location that you're going to have it at, that you're going to have this location at, right, in order to actually make that available, right? Because when you try to use this, it does not make the configuration file itself. It would have been nice if it did, but that's not the case. And just so we make sure that there wasn't an update that fixed said problem, because when I was last using this, I think it was on like what was it, 1.32, and I think it's currently on 1.37. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to give this a shot here, right? So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and try it and see what happens. All right, because if you was to go through all of the documentation on here, it almost seems like you should be able to install it. And then if there's no configuration file, it's running though, and then you can just run telegraph config, and then it would generate, the full config file, right? Definitely not the case at all. Definitely not the case at all. But we're going to see. We're going to see. Yep. And like I said, right, so definitely doesn't work because it's expecting that file to be there. And it's just so crazy. I'm sorry if I'm like venting on here, because like this is the reason why we make these videos, because I would have thought that in the official whatever you call it, right, that they would have made a mention that, hey, you need to make sure you have your configuration file already there for Docker, and otherwise you're kind of hold, my guy. And here is an example of a config file, but no, definitely not it, right? And the unfortunate thing too is I think they used to have the config file locally available, but as you can see here, right, definitely not the case, right? So I had to search far and wide in order to get an example, right, which I'm going to show you how to do. And then once you have like a small little example you got running, then you can go inside the container and then execute this so that it generates an actual full config file. So what do we do? We're going to start by just simply touching that file. Man, why do I feel dirty saying that? All right, let's go here to my Theater V server here. So we're going to do that. Cool. It made it. I'm going to just hit the up arrow to bring the command back, hit LS. And would you look at that? It didn't make it. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, actually, yeah. This is the problem. It makes it as a directory and not the actual config file. This was already here. This is from the container. So what we need to do is, so we're going to need to remove this. And I think because this is considered a directory, so I need to use -R, and then I'm going to try and make it again. So let's go ahead and do that. And now let's check and see. And cool, right? Now it is a actual file. And we're probably going to need to go inside in order to actually add a command or two, or sorry, like an actual real setting or two in order for it to actually work. But let's actually go ahead and test it out. See, like I said, right, it's good to go through this. That way, in case of, there happens to have been an update that fixed something, you got to go. And look, see, so now it's actually working. So yeah, so now it's actually working. Cool. So now what we can do is we can go ahead, we can go inside, and I wonder if it's because it actually went down as soon as it went up. Let's see. Yes, because it went down as soon as it went up. You see, I thought they may have updated something. I guess not. So it is still trash. All right. Now let's actually go ahead and talk about what we need to have in it just to get it kind of up and going. Okay. Because like I said, right, what you want is you just want this to be running so that you can then get it to generate a full config file, right? I was originally thinking about, if sharing a config file, but I really frown on that because, the default config file for Telegraph is massive. So if I was to share that to you, you have no idea like what I changed or what somebody changed or might have like put in there. So I really don't recommend, sharing config files. So that's why I really want to show you this way on, getting it to generate the Telegraph config itself. So let's go ahead and jump back into our terminal here, and we're going to now get into this file. Like I say, it's empty, and we're going to do, all you really need is just the agent, just a quick thing right here, and then it like a random output and an input thing, because that's what it uses to consider it a the valid config file, right? So I'm going to go ahead, have those two there, right? So right quick, and then now we're going to go ahead and attempt to run this now, as you see, because like I tried getting it to run and it wouldn't run because I said it still didn't work with the different little pieces of a config I tried to add. So now it should certainly do it with this. So let's go ahead and go to the logs, and boom, right? So now it is officially running. Okay, perfect. Now let's actually go ahead and go into the console, and let's actually now run that command, which was where we're at right here, right? So telegraph config, and then this config thing, right? So what I expect to see is that this writes, or write out or write over the config file that we made. Right, I'm just going to just try to note the size. So I expect that to have changed once we run this command. So I'm going to now go ahead and paste it, telegraph config, into the config file. Let's go. And now let's actually take a look here, right? And I see nothing. I wonder. And yeah, sure enough, right? No change, and that's fine, right? So what we're gonna do is oh, sorry, I'm tripping over there, right? So what we probably just need to do is we need to get it to what's the word I'm looking for? Probably got to specify that full directory that it's in, right? So if I go over here back to the telegraph here, I can actually just see it straight from right here. Let's see, and it should be this right here, right? That should be the full in container directory, right? Which would represent where this is right here on our host. So we're going to go ahead and let's do that. So I'm going to, oh yeah, I forgot that, this is bash, right? So let's type that out, right? Telegraph config, and then let us now try to paste that right, and then let's do it. Now let's see what okay, cool. So now this should have most certainly had work, right? Boom, see, there we go. See, now we are at a full-fledged config file, as you can see here, okay? But you're not done yet, right? You was doing everything I was just showing you, right, was just so you can get the config file, okay? Because like I said, I really don't recommend just pulling it from the internet, unless you're somehow pulling it directly from Telegraph themselves, which I think there might be one floating somewhere, maybe. As you can see, in fact, I'll use my editor here to kind of to show, right? As you can see, the config file is massive, right? It has a lot of different inputs and outputs and stuff. Okay. So, there's no telling what could be in there. So I wouldn't, that's why I wouldn't do it. Right. That's why I really need to show you how to just get a full-fledged Telegraf config file yourself directly from the container. And now we're going to go ahead and now talk about actually getting this up and running. Okay. So here's the thing. Okay. So the things that you could use it for, right? Because Telegraf is, part of a data aggregator thing, right? It scrapes information off of your system and make it available to something like maybe Prometheus, right? That you can use. Now, here's the thing that they didn't do a really good job telling you, or it's not immediately known to you. Okay, these tools. Let me actually pull up in here. Okay, these tools, and let me look at NVMe. Okay, right? Like for example, these smart tools and stuff, or these smart plugins or inputs, right? These will not work when you enable them, and the reason why they won't work is because the container itself actually lacks any of the tools that you see is available for you to enable in the configuration file, right? You have to actually build the Telegraf container image yourself with these tools being added to install them in order for it to work. Okay. So, if you had looked at a previous video I did where what video was it? Making a toolbox, right? Where I was showing you guys how to get BTOP and stuff on Unraid. It's you're going to have to do it that exact same way, where you're going to need to create a Docker file, and you're going to have to, specify the things you want to add in it, and then build it. And then, like I said, if you want to persist it through, right, then you can upload it to Docker Hub. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna go through those motions one more time, right? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, go to where I keep my Docker containers. Okay, I'm going to make a directory. I'm gonna call this one, all right, Telegraf. All right, cool. Right, so let's go here. Oops, I pressed 1 instead of L. All right, cool. So now we're going to Docker file, right? This is us creating a Docker file in it that we're going to use to build. And so now we are going to put in our stuff that we're going to need to use, which I have right here. Okay. So, and then I found out about my comment thing. You can't have comments in the same line as the command. Doesn't work. Okay. Can't get away with it. They have to be online, apparently, in a Docker build. But anyway, right. So like I said, the latest version at the time I made this, because when I last did this, I was on 1.32. The latest one is, as of right now, is 1.37.1. Right. So, you can use that. Like I said, people frown upon using latest or whatever, I suppose. I like to live on the edge, so I'm going to just use it anyway. But this is what I used in order to get some of those tools working that I was using in particular. Okay, so as you see here, I got smart tools, right? So smart tools, the LM sensors, the input tools.ping. And I do believe I had to remove, what was it? I think I had to remove ZFS Utils Linux because I don't think that was actually available at the time when I was trying to install it. That's why you don't see it here. So just smart tools, LM sensors, you do need sudo. Unfortunately, you do need sudo. And then the NVMe client, right? This is what I needed to install in order to get the smart tools thing working. The basic hard drive reading, the sensors and stuff going, right? As well as my NVMe, right? Needed sudo. There is it does mention somewhere in their documentation, some alternatives you can use for not using sudo. But that was too, it was just too much. And I was just like, bro, I'm gonna just install sudo and just call it a day. Right. So yeah. And then everything else, right, should be okay or the same. Like I said, since I was installing sudo, I needed to make sure that Telegraf was, a sudoer. So that way you could actually, get to those privileged, information. And then boom, right? Then of course, the command telegraph, right? So boom. So let's go ahead and copy this here, and we're going to go ahead. Let me press I to go into input or insert mode, right click it, paste all that in there. It's all looking good to me, right? Cool. Hit the escape button, :WQ, the write and quit. That's that. And now to build the telegraph. Then you would use it then build, right? Which, if you remember, like I said in my other videos, let me just move this out my way here, right? All you just simply need is just going to be Docker build, and then you are going to want to tag it as something. So then this is where you would call it, whatever it is you want to call it. Now, I think that the only reason why I'm not going to like run through that in this video is just because I've already built it before, right? And I've already uploaded this to my own Docker hub. So I am just going to simply just pull. Here we go. All right. Yeah. So like I said, see, so this is, like I said, I already had uploaded and made this before, but that's how you would build one yourself, right? And you do it. Of course, you're more than welcome to pull mines if you want. As of right now, all it has is just those tools. Where am I at? Where was my? Oh yeah, right. Go back, right. All it has is just those tools. Ooh, almost pressed enter by mistake. Maybe, if you mention in the comment section, because if you really don't want to have to go through this, if you mention it in the comment section, that, you're using my container and you want me to just add a particular tools, like I said, from one of the inputs that you're using, just, if you mention it, I can't promise you when exactly I get to it. I'll probably get to it like relatively quickly. Cause like I say, this stuff, I already have it all here. So it's just a matter of just, adding a single line, hitting enter, and then pushing it up. Right. I might do that depending on like the interest, so I could maybe do that on a weekly basis. But anyway, right? So boom, right? So you're going to, you made it, you built it. Now you're going to go ahead and install it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this, also delete that image because like I said, that was just for strict, demonstration purposes. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and like I said, I've made it before. All right. So all right, so let's go ahead and now go through installing it. Here's some important things that I need to point out so that you guys know. Okay, so like I said, you give it the tag of the image you created, of your version of the image you created, or if you want to pull mines, you pull mines. You can leave everything else as is. There's going to be two important things you're going to need to change. Okay, so first one is going to be the host path for the config file. Okay, make sure, because I think it defaults to actually specifying the config file. I don't know why Telegraf did this, or I don't know if maybe it's some like crazy bug between Unraid and Telegraf or whatever, right? It's God help me. So you need to remove it because it's going to regardless, is going to treat it as a directory. So if you specify the config file, it wants it to be a directory, so the container will never work. So you need to remove that. But you're not even done with, you're also not even done with that part. Now, what you also need to do, of course, like I say, if you wanted to use Prometheus, right, you can open up the, add the Prometheus port, but you also need to add another variable. Okay, this telegraf config path variable, right? So you click on that, then you do variable, right, and that's where you're able to fill it out. Okay, you need to, it's this telegraf config path, you need to change it to actually then be the location of that config file. And then remember, right, these are variables read inside the container, so the pathways need to match inside the container. So just as a quick recap, right, so whatever this path is, right, that's what you're using, plus wherever the config file is. Okay, so we're going to you add that there. So variable, right, that config file path, boom, and then you're going to hit apply, and then boom, right, and then you'll see that it would have came up successfully, but and here's like, how beautiful this this container is, or Unraid and telegraf combo. Okay, but if I now go into my logs here, okay, because it isn't actually running, it's going to complain. It says this is a directory, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? I done put the config file there. So in fact, I might even still have it. Up. Yeah, I even still have it up right here. Right. So I'm like, what is it talking about? So let me refresh this, since I just made the container, and then I refresh it. And would you look at that? It actually made some crazy change to it. I don't even know like what this is. Oh, that's right, because it's located in 2 different locations, right? So I'm going to go ahead and let me just delete. I'm gonna delete this real quick here. Or you know what? It's actually better if I just show you in the terminal. Okay, I'm gonna go in the terminal, and if I ls in there, you're going to see it actually comes up as a directory now, right? So it actually written the config file I uploaded there and made it into a directory. So like I said, there's no way of getting around that. That's just something you're just going to have to do. So I'm going to go ahead and remove -r this thing here. Let me do -a2, make sure nothing's hiding. Okay, yeah, so it is gone. So if I refresh this now, okay, let's go ahead and refresh it, right? If I refresh it, and this is still like and this is just because it's in the catch. I guess what I'm going to have to do now is go ahead and let me just get the working directory here, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and move it myself. So I believe is mount user, right? And yeah, right. So then we're going to do telegraf, whoops, right, /telegraf, and then I'm gonna hit the period at the end, right? And so that way I am moving that file from there to this current location where I want it at, right? So now if I ls, right, it's there. And if I refresh this, and I see that is going to be in my location. Like I say, you wouldn't have a problem with it. And the container actually probably would have worked just as fine with, whatever right there. Maybe I want to say it's like soft linked or something. I don't know. But yeah, but like I said, at the end, right, you can't get around this. So you're going to start it. You'll get it like that first initial success page. And then you're going to have to come back and make sure that it didn't change your config file to a path to an actual directory, right? Delete it, move that, put the config file back, and then hit run. And now we should see it running without a problem. So let's go ahead and hit our logs, and boom, right? It is doing its thing. We see that it is listening to the metrics, right? So we know it's working. So now if I go over here to my target, my Prometheus, right? If I go ahead and refresh this real quick, and right here, boom, and it's up. It's up and it's now going. And there you go, right? Like I said, guys, I wish this stuff was easier. It's not. So let's kind of recap all the fun stuff that we had to do. Okay. I'm not even get to that part, right? So, first things first is, you find the telegraf container, the one that's on the, doc on the Unraid like app store thing, right? Install it, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to create the dummy config file, which, you saw that we did, where we gave it, was it right here, right? Where we gave it like, some quick config information so that it would be treated as valid, right? Which I'll have in the description for you guys to just simply copy and paste. This was just to get it up and running, right? Once we had it up and running, then we actually went into the container. We ran that command, which actually generated a full official config file for telegraf. Like I said, I personally recommend you really go through this, because you see how massive that config file is. If you're downloading it somewhere off the internet, you don't know like what somebody might have changed, added, forgot to change or whatever, right? So please do it that way. But once you get the official config file, right, then you can sit there, you can make your edits as you make sure you back that up too after you make your edits and whatnot. Then, you know, we sat there and we made a container. Right, we had to build the telegraph from scratch. Right, go back here, right? You know, we had to build the telegraph from scratch, right? Because it didn't have the tools we need for some of those plugins, those output plugins to even work, right? And this is what I had installed in order to get the NVMe information and smart tools going. And I needed to have sudo in there, and I also wanted some of this stuff, right? So like I said, I'll have this in the description. I won't have the, well, I'll probably leave this comment section in here. But everything else, like all the comments I actually will leave. Yeah, so this whole thing will be in the description, sorry. But yeah, right, so we built the container, and then, you know, like I said before, right, you can just then, you know, you should see it pop up here where this is where you could then use its name instead of like whatever was like in the default telegraph container, in order to make it use that the one that you built, right? And then this is the part where you would then, you know, you'd make your changes, right? Like I said, you know, you need to make sure the host path thing is changed to not have the config file. And then you needed to add the variable telegraph config path in order to actually point it to that config file, right? You hit done, and then hopefully it works out the gate for you. I think it's just like, because I don't have like my shares things properly configured, that's why it still made that directory. Like I said, then if you have that issue, you saw what I did where I just went in into the share, right, deleted it, or deleted the directory, right, moved it into the places I needed it to actually be, and then ran it, and boom, it's working, right? Which we can confirm, right? Because we saw my Prometheus is going, but then also too, like I said, well, they say you won't know until you start actually scraping that information. One nice thing with Prometheus, right? Because this link right here, this 9273 metrics. I wonder if it'll, no, it won't, right? I'll just have to type it out, right? So let me go like that, right? So if I go here, and then I see it is pulling like, you know, the information. It is grabbing some information, right? I hope this video helped you guys, whoever was trying to get telegraph up and running on Unraid. Like, as you saw, it's quite a bit of a pain, but, you know, like I said, once you do it, you know, the first time, all subsequent times are easier. And then, like I said, you know, especially if you're building it locally yourself, right, you can sit there and you can grow over time where, you know, when you start enabling more of the output sections, if you need to make a tool, or you need to, like, you know, add some stuff, right, you just add it here, you rebuild it, right, you know, that Docker build, make sure you give it a proper tag name, you know, you're incrementing the tag number or whatever, you know, however you want to do it, I guess. But yeah, that would be that. So I hope this was helpful, and you guys take care.